Okay, just wanted to get this video out there, kind of get it settled so I can see comments while I'm away from my desk for a little while. At some point I got to put up some art or something over here, make this not so boring and white. In the last just like general update video I did speak a little bit in the middle of all the varied topics about this session running that I plan on doing at a bookstore, which I came to realize, like, you never know who's going to show up, right? So this isn't a committed thing, right? So this is going to be mostly, I'm going to be running mostly one-shots in various systems. And what I mentioned in that video, you ever notice I'm always having to play with something? It's like some people always have to be chewing something, they have an oral fixation. I always have to be playing with something. Too many years playing video games, I guess. That in the middle of that video, I mentioned that I was having difficulty coming up with storylines for games. And at that point, I'm thinking both one-shots and like limited adventures, you know, a 3, 4, 6 session kind of storyline for pre-existing settings, right? Like I've got Dragon Age. Dragon Age Origins was an amazing video game. I really got excited reading the Dragon Age book, but coming up with stories to run, I can't think of anything. I just run dry. And I describe that as like being hamstrung, or more like I feel like there's a muscle that I need to, a tendon that I need to stretch, right? Because I've been, for so long, the only GMing I've been doing is in my own setting for my homebrew setting for Rollmaster. So I think that's kind of limited me, that I haven't been moving out and about in other systems, and in particular in other settings, and coming up with stories. I'm not sure if this is just an issue of lack of practice. You know, tons of skills can be improved with use over time, right? So it could just be a lack of practice. It could be that I find the settings really interesting, but they're not intuitive to me, and therefore I don't intuitively grab onto a plot. It could be that I feel like, if you take a look at Dragon Age Origins, like the neatness in it, to me, the neatness in the Dragon Age setting, you know, it isn't creatures, it isn't it isn't tactical stuff, right? It's not like all the neat monsters or anything like that. It's the realness of the setting. It's the tension that exists in the world, and I'm gonna have to figure out. I think I'm gonna have to figure out how to bring that together at the table. And here I'm gonna switch tacks a little bit. That maybe this is difficult for me because I don't really know how to make pre-gen characters. You know, so these are characters whose drives and goals aren't my own. I mean, sorry, they are my own. They're all my own. Sorry, said that in reverse. Said that, you know, they aren't the people at the table, right? Because it's almost like a convention, right? Just whoever shows up here, have these are the pre-gens, select from them. What am I trying to say? Let me get words around this. That with me trying to come up with all the pre-gens, only my brain can do that, right? Only my desires or interest feelers for characters can do that. I mean, I can try to make a character that I don't find interesting on purpose because someone else will find it interesting. But I usually don't actually attach character parts to pre-gens. Maybe that's something I should try doing. But how do I build something that is going to, I'm trying to get to put all these thoughts into a good couple sentences. How do I pre-gen characters and design a one-shot scenario that shows what role-playing is, right? That it's not a tactical board game, nor is it story night. I notice some people, they tend to do that. I find those both to get too far outside the core definition of role-playing game, right? Game and role-playing is both in there. If you stray too far to one side or too far to the other side, you're not really doing the role-playing game. You may still be having fun. I'm not delegitimizing anyone's choices. I just feel like it fails definitions. So yeah, I'm really struggling with that at this point. I'm clearly going to be having to put in a lot more practice and trying to go somewhere with it. But Sophie says, I have to say that I usually do not even try to create a plot as GM. That is something I leave open for the players and they can drive the story. That is something that you can really do when you're good shooting from the hip GM. I'm not really sure that I'm a good shooting from the hip GM. And to be fair, again, and I said this in one of my own RPG a Day videos a long time back, that while I am someone who says you should, if you're really into the hobby, you should be trying out different systems. And while I say that, I also realized, wow, I really haven't spread myself around that much. Like I've been playing Rolemaster, mostly running Rolemaster actually, most of the time I get, right? Now part of that's because, well, I have a setting and and then the GM problem, like who's going to be the GM? If someone else is going to be the GM and they want to run some other system, great. But I was usually the GM, and thus I was running things in my setting because I hadn't seen enough of it, and thus I was playing Rolemaster. So I didn't really stretch myself across a lot of different kinds of games either. What was I saying that for? And thus, what I want to say, the reason why that's relevant is that I feel like I didn't really practice a lot of shooting from the hip either, because if it's a stat-heavy game, sometimes it can be more difficult, or at least it takes more practice to get to the point, more experience. Now I feel like I'm there, but before, not so much, where you can just create your obstacles on the fly, right? Statistically speaking, game mechanically speaking, that it takes some more experience doing that. I feel like I'm the kind of guy that if I'm letting the players drive the story, which I want them to drive the story in terms of what angles they're going to take. But then that puts me in the place where, okay, you guys want to do that? That's great. Sit there and think, right? Like there's going to be like this quiet lag while I figure out, okay, what does that mean for the game? What do I need to do? Maybe I can start trying to say some basic descriptions or basic consequences from that decision, while at the same time multi-thread processing. What else does it mean? Again, these are probably just muscles I need to work. Sure, I got more practice GMing and experiencing different parts of the role-playing hobby and the way that it interacts and plays off of itself. But I don't think I really started to, I don't even want to say grow, but realize the places that there are to grow until I found like RPG a Day videos and Runeslinger and people like that I was like, okay, like I didn't think this was a simple hobby. I never had that mistake, right? or misconception, but holy cow, there's a lot more things here to think about than I thought about before. And looking at myself saying, oh, okay, I really need to look at these aspects. So anyways, this whole issue might be stuff I just need to practice, right? In particular, Sophie, for that kind of thing, and I really want to tag John on this video to see if I can get his input. One of the systems I want to run is Fate Core. And Fate Core with their aspects, right? Like statistically speaking, it's a super light game, right? What's the skill, the skill pyramid? That's all that you really need for your character for the most part, for an NPC or whatever. But you need you do need those aspects, and those aspects shouldn't be too simple and too basic. And I don't know that I'm the creative type person, and again, I no experience with Fate Core yet, so I definitely don't have these muscles worked out yet and practiced that that I can do that kind of stuff on the fly. So the particular question I had for that was, how and specifically would you do a Fate Core con game, like a con session, right? Like that's essentially what I'll be doing. I don't know who my players will be beforehand, so I don't know what kind of characters they want to run, what kind of conflicts they want to run, like internal conflicts, like what kind of character troubles do they want to have. Whereas, because reading the Fate Core book, how you basically sit together and you basically have session 0 building characters and plot line and world setting and stuff like that all together. So you have a really good idea about what kind of stories you all want to tell and how the characters are going to play and interplay with it. But if you're doing a con session, that's not really what you have, right? Like you need to come prepared with this stuff. So definitely like to get some input on that. So maybe a good general question, a good video response kind of question here is, have any of you gone from predominantly campaign or long adventure play to one-shot play? Or vice versa, you've been doing predominantly one-shot play, and now you're doing adventure campaign play, where the plots take longer than one session. And what did you experience that you had to change, learn, adapt to go from one of those styles of play to the other? I will obviously in particular be looking for those who have gone from campaign play to one-shot play. In particular, by the way, for what I'm expecting to do one-shot, I'm expecting when I do these one-shots at the bookstore, I'm expecting to be doing this for non-role players, right? Like I'm expecting this all to be introductory, which is also another reason why I don't want it to be too heavy on combat, which, you know, if I go to a convention and a session is heavy on combat, that doesn't bother me at all, right? Because I kind of have an expectation, hey, this is a convention game. They have to throw you in, there has to be a hook, and combat is a lot easier to time estimate than open conversation, right? And character interactions in a social sense. So I don't think anything about it at a convention game, but if I'm trying to introduce people to what role-playing is, I do want there to be some social aspects to the game. I do want there to be combat to the game, you know. I am looking for those things to be part of the game, and I think that might be where I'm kind of struggling with coming up with plot ideas, because I don't necessarily want social interaction to be, well, you rolled an interrogate, or you rolled an influence check or whatever, and this is what happens, and that be it. Like I would like it to be a bit more than that, but I am just struggling to think about how it needs to be. I think push comes to shove, I'm just going to have to start running some more and see how it goes and see how the designs work out. Kind of like making lesson plans as a teacher. This is your idea, then you make changes on the fly, then you document those changes, and then you think about it again for the next time you do it, and you document those changes, and you just keep doing it. No big deal. But I am just trying to search for your guys' wisdom, your experience. So advice ongoing from thinking about campaigns and adventures to thinking about one-shots to and the idea of building one-shots to demonstrate what the hobby is, what range exists in the hobby. If I give them social and combat, they can always tweak and they go, oh, this is a really interesting hobby and I really like it, but I didn't care for this part or didn't care for that part. Then they can always just go and tweak what they're looking for, both in the groups and in the systems. So anyways, that's it. I'm gonna go hang out at that bookstore right now and get ready to pick up the wifey. And I will talk to you guys later.